Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Reference Point. I'm your host, Dave Kocharhook. And tonight we're going to talk about a subject that actually for me and my generation is really important, but also for those coming behind us is going to be extremely critical. And that has to do with what do we do about when we plan to retire? Is there going to be enough money at the end of the month, as some people have talked about? And with me this evening to talk about this whole area of what's going on with money and retirements and wealth management and that sort of thing is Mr. Stephen Dobrow, who's the president of a company called Primark Benefits, and also has been the past president of an association that deals with retirement planning and whatnot, and we'll talk about that. Stephen, welcome to Reference Point.
Thank you for having me here. I look forward to speaking about retirement to anyone that would listen.
And I think that's an important thing because we don't really put a lot of attention on that, I think, when we're in our dominant working years. I know for me, I think my father's generation was probably one of the last really blocks of time when you would work for a company for 20 or more years at the same firm, and most good-sized companies had pension plans in those days, and that's not the same today as it was 30, 40 years ago.
No, the pension plans as we know them went away in the 1980s. The Reagan years were not good for tax law and for balancing the budget, so a lot of the pension plans that we had all went away. For example, Primark in those days, we had 550 defined benefit plans covering thousands of participants, and they all went away because it was no longer advantageous for those employers to have those plans. And that's where a lot of the IRA money came from, by the way.
They went away because, not because the government said you shouldn't have these anymore, they just created a condition that made it non-optimum for the employer to have such a program?
Well, correct. They had installed new rules and new tests and that kind of thing, and it was hard to get any pension benefits to executives. And a lot of times the decision makers in a company are the executives, and they want to have a decent retirement too. But the government had so shrunk the maximum benefit that people could get, it just wasn't worth sponsoring a retirement plan anymore, as well as the increased cost of compliance made it very difficult.
And so you're saying at that time, that's when things like IRAs and 401k plans and that sort of thing started to pop up like mushrooms?
That was the alternative. If my employer wasn't going to save for me, I needed to save my own money, and so the government, trying to help out, created the IRAs and that kind of thing, and had other kinds of retirement programs that in the 80s, like for example, they invented a 401k plan, and then it was up to us to try and improve it over the next 20 or 30 years.
But are those plans at that time, were they automatic? You're an employee, you're in something like that, or no?
Well, first of all, not many employers had the pension plans as you described it. Certainly the Fortune 500 had them, and corporate America had them, but out through America it really wasn't all that popular. What we had here in California was people that were professionals, doctors, lawyers, or businesses doing well. They would put in pension plans, and then later on that drifted to, okay, well now we have to have savings programs like a 401k plan, and we'll start to offer those. So it just took a long time, and it drifted.
So I'm gathering from that the average worker never really had anything available to them for putting something away that had some tax benefit.
Yeah, the participant, the individual worker, they could save in a bank account and pay taxes on it. But and at work they started offering thrift and savings plans, which became the 401k. And that was the stellar thing about 401k, is you could take that money and not pay taxes on it now, and the government was saying, okay, you put it away for 20 or 30 years, and maybe at that time we'll talk about taxes. In the meantime, you got to grow a nest egg.
Right.
And so that's what was one of the elements of popularity of the 401k. The other element was having to do with, well, I think I can invest my way to having a secure retirement.
Oh, right. So you could direct those monies into some type of like a stock or bond or some other investment vehicle that hopefully would cause it to grow rather than just generating interest, like what you see in an individual retirement account that just generates X amount of interest.
Right. The employers were offering before, in the pension situation, a trustee that would professionally manage the assets for the long term on a conservative basis. And so when the 401k plans came up, people said, oh boy, I want to invest in these tech companies and emerging markets, and I can get 20%, I can get 30%. And so it kind of caught on. And then in the 1990s, as you remember, the financial markets spiked up, and it made all these Americans feel like they were investment geniuses.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so it was.
And then 2000 hit.
And yeah, well, and several things hit since then too. The fact is that participants don't really make good investors. They shouldn't do a lot of things. Investments is one of them. So now they've gone more back to having funds within plans that are managed by professionals, so that the average worker won't really have to learn about what's a stock, what's a bond, and what's a proper portfolio.
Let's talk about the average worker for a minute. You had mentioned something to me before the show about there being a retirement crisis in the country. Could you expound on that a little bit, what you mean by that?
Yeah, the first thing is that people don't save enough for their retirement. I think that the average that a couple gets, for retirement that manages to save is about $5,000 or maybe $12,000 per family. And that's just the average of what people have accumulated for their retirement. The average balance at some place like Fidelity, where they have lots and lots of 401k plans, is less than $100,000. And not everybody has a retirement plan. Right. And in fact, more people are not offered a retirement plan at work than are offered a retirement plan at work.
Got it.
So
so what are the so I'm going to extrapolate from that there is a high percentage of the American population that has little, if anything, available to them at the point when they are hoping to stop work as a full-time thing and live their life in a different way, or maybe cut to part-time or something like that, and that's going to be a problem, or it is a problem.
Well, it is a problem because, and we're trying to address it, but lots of people won't go down to their local financial institution and open up an IRA. The only way they're really going to save is if they're offered a plan at work, and not every business offers a plan, and we're trying to get that to grow.
You say we. Now, is that tied to the association that you've been affiliated with?
I've been affiliated with the American Society of Pension Professionals and Actuaries. They're an educational organization for pension professionals, and also lobby and encourage the creation of retirement plans for the private sector, and especially small businesses.
And you've been past president of that organization,
yes,
right? Okay.
Yes, and I got a chance to testify before Congress and get 2 laws on pension change. It was very fulfilling, but I regularly meet with senators and congressmen and staffers at the IRS or Treasurer or DOL and try and put in programs that allow small businesses to get a tax break and offer these plans to their employees in a way that is helpful to everyone getting a retirement account.
Let's talk about that for a minute. You mentioned small business, and that's a key word, a key phrase for me, because in my career, the things that I do outside of doing this TV thing, I've worked with small and medium-sized companies for like 30, 35 years. And I see that, and that's where the bulk of employment is in the country. Yeah, you got the big Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000, and they have what they have, but most of the population of the country don't work for those large companies. They're either independent, working for themselves, or they're working for a 5, 10, 15, 20 person company. And so I'm gathering from what we've talked about that at that level, there is not all that much in place that makes it possible for the majority of the American public to participate in these kind of benefits programs where you're putting money aside for your future. Did I read that right?
Yes, but we've made significant inroads after the 1980s, and we learned that Congress was not going to give us lots of tools unless we really helped them understand the problem. So they have, especially in the 90s, grown the whole pension arena to give us more choices of plans. And I regularly say that you've heard of a 401k plan, you've heard of an IRA. Those are just 2 of the 24 different types of retirement plans that I can bring to a small organization. And so those choices are really, really important, because not everybody fits into the same program. So some people need something that's very variable. Some people need something very fixed. A lot of times simple works great. Other times complex works better. So we have to be able to tailor the plans to that employer's needs, so that employer will offer it. In addition to that, we managed to get some tax breaks, not just for the low-income workers who will actually get a tax credit if they participate, but for the participant, the employer, if he offers a retirement plan for the first 3 years, we have a tax break that helps him with administrative expenses an actual tax credit. So those are all things that came out. We created more features in plans that allowed for loans and hardship withdrawals and for sole proprietors to participate. And so we've made great inroads to improving the private pension system. However, we still have a long way to go to get more people covered.
So does the average employer, small business owner, do they know about these things? Or is it that the table has been set? There are options. Well, now we got to get people to recognize that there are possibilities and motivate them to action.
There are possibilities. A lot of them are not known. Okay. And there is a big push in the country to get more people covered. And so they're actually going to start to force some employers to face the retirement issues. So I know that the current administration tried to get Congress to put in a mandatory retirement kind of thing where employers of five employees or more would have to offer something, and they failed at that. So they came out with MIRA. I don't know if you heard of that thing, where the government will actually take your IRA money and give you a Roth IRA, and that's something that the current administration is rolling out. In addition to that, 30 states, including California, have created a law that says all employers with more than 5 or more than 10, depending on the state, have to start to offer some sort of retirement program, and they will automatically enroll their employees into those programs and send the money somewhere so they can be saved for retirement. So there's a big push to get more people covered, and a lot of people won't like it that states are starting to mandate that they have to behave a certain way as a business person.
Yeah, Big Brother is trying to force me to do blah, blah, blah. But I guess the reality is, though, that unless there's something in place that gets, I guess force might be the right term to use, but automatically has something happen for someone so that those funds are put aside, chances are, if that wasn't there, chances are there will be, like the majority of people that you were saying earlier have maybe 15 or 30 or maybe $100,000 at the time they're trying to retire. And we're living longer these days. It's not like, you know, when they put Social Security in where you might live to 45 or 50. Now people are living to 100, you know, and it's getting longer.
Well, most people have Social Security. I'll go back to the idea that if you offer a retirement plan at work, 73% of the people offered the plan will actually get an account sooner or later. And if you tell them, well, go down to the bank and open an IRA, only less than 5% will actually do so. So about 4.7 or something like that. So really it is a great incentive to get people to save. And the Social Security thing is no great panacea either, although I guarantee everyone will get a retirement benefit from Social Security. The question is, are they going to take the check right back in the form of taxes? Because you know, the system's supposed to go insolvent in 2023. We've all heard that, but I have every confidence that they're going to do the things, and in fact I've been in rooms of actuaries that said what they're going to do to make sure that Social Security survives, and it will. And it is still the primary retirement source for millions of Americans.
Absolutely. I want to mention to the viewers out there that if they have any questions about what we're talking about here, to send those queries to us at info@referencepointtv.com, and I'll get it over to Stephen, and we can maybe get your questions answered if you have anything you want to know about the programs nationally here in the state of California, you know, what to do for yourself, because we can direct you to resources if that's the case. So you mentioned Social Security, and that's good to hear somebody say that it's not going to blow up, because what you hear in the media, the news media likes to, you know, it's all things are going to blow up and nothing good's going to happen about anything. But
well, you know, retirement is very complicated. And when we start talking about these programs, there's lots of details, there's lots of numbers, and it's a very complex issue. And it involves politicians, and then it involves investment professionals, and it involves actuaries and other mathematicians and economists. And by the time you get all that stuff out on the table, it becomes really hard to sort your way through it. So what the politicians do is they try and simplify it and run away, so to speak. You know, if I can just solve the immediate issue and kick the can down the road to my the people that come after me, I don't have to worry about funding my pension plan now or fixing Social Security now. Let me just get on with the political things and use our money to fill the next pothole that comes or whatever.
we haven't talked about this, but a thought just struck me. What does our system that we use here in the United States look like compared to other countries, Germany, the UK, wherever? I mean, is the problem we're facing here from a standpoint of retirement programs and pension monies similar? Are they facing the same kind of challenges everywhere in the Western world? Or
I can't say there's any perfect panacea of any pension plan out there, especially among the more democratic or non-socialistic countries. So there have been inroads made, like in Australia, for example, where they stripped out a lot of the cost of the financial services industry, and then they mandated that people save for their retirement at large levels so that they didn't have this big homeless problem and this running out of money problem. You mentioned that life expectancy is getting longer. Well, when they developed Social Security, the retirement age was 65 and the life expectancy was 64.
Yeah,
so
right, yeah.
It was really easy. And now I think at the latest count it was 73 years old, or 73.8 or something like that, is where our life expectancy is according to IRS tables.
yeah.
So it's getting longer all the time.
Right.
And as you find more people approaching 100, it's going to be harder. And as those industrialized countries continue to improve their living conditions and health conditions, they will find their populations also live longer. So it's a global problem. And I don't have a solution from any specific country.
Sure. I mean, you know, but I guess the thing that I'm taking away from this is that each individual needs to take personal responsibility for doing something that's going to be able to help them to put something in place. And you also touched on something earlier, that as the average guy, myself or whomever, trying to manage one's investment portfolio to the point where it's going to actually produce something for you, we have no idea what we're doing. We're not real good at that. And so those things can go blowing off the water pretty easy. So what should people be thinking about?
Well, several things. First of all, the best part of my job is when I do like a 401k enrollment meeting and get to talk to people and introduce them about the concept of savings. I try and find an 18-year-old in the room and say, now if you just save 3% of your compensation at every job you go to, and invest in the kinds of 401k plans we have today, by the time you reach retirement, you'll have twice the salary in retirement that you'll have on your last job. And so not all of us are 18, so if we find a 20-year-old, you might be able to put in 5% and get the same salary you had. Or if you're in your late 20s, you might be able to put in 10% and get the same salary you have. And as you get older, the amount of salary replacement you have is less, and that's because the longer that the money is in your retirement account, the more compounding, the more general earnings you're generally going to get. And so saving early is really, really important, and then saving often is also
do people
important.
do that? People don't save early, do they?
Not only do they not save, if they do accumulate something and then they change jobs, and a lot of people, as you mentioned, are changing jobs and not staying at a company 20 years anymore, there's a lot of leakage from the system. So someone will change jobs and say, oh, now my 401k is available. Well, maybe I should take out the money and pay off my bills or do that kind of thing. And so they remove the money from the system. And it can be short-sighted for a lot of people.
Right.
But that's just the way the system is right now. I think educating the public about this critical issue in their lives is really important. And
how do we do that? You mentioned it's a complicated, the process of putting something in place that works is complicated. But the message doesn't seem to be that complicated. How do you get the message across?
Well, there's lots of companies out there, insurance companies, financial companies and stuff, producing videos and apps and all these kind of things to try and engage something. I just had to laugh yesterday when someone pointed out to me that a major insurance company has created a pets website solely to provide a platform to get people involved once they were looking at cute kittens and dogs that can now talk to them about retirement. And that's their newest idea. And I don't know if it's going to work, but we're trying things to get people engaged and involved. I know that I personally try and speak to as many people as I can about the serious issues of retirement and try and paint a hopeful future. And we can all be part of that participatory thing and get it going, especially when some employers give you free money and believe me, there's no better kind of money than free money, or that you get to put your money in and get tax-deferred money.
Right.
So the only thing better than tax-deferred money would be tax-free money, and maybe you can get some of that too in a Roth IRA or something like a Roth 401k. So there's lots of things that people can explore, and I don't really know great ways to engage it, but what the government's kind of said to employers is we can auto-enroll people who work in this country. We're going to give you a free pass. If you go ahead and install a retirement plan, or in some cases mandate that you have a retirement plan, you're going to automatically enroll people, because when they voluntarily have to sign up, they have to fill out a paper or go online or something, they have to do something, and so inertia says you never do it.
Right.
Well, they've taken the concept now and flipped it on its head and say, you're all automatically in this retirement plan unless you take time to log in or fill out the form or do something. And it's really made a big difference in how people are saving for their retirement, because it allows people to do it. And the best part of my job is when one of those people found themselves in a retirement plan and they get a statement and they come up to me holding a piece of paper that says $10,000 on it, and they ask, is this really mine? Is this real? Do I get to keep this? This is the most money I've seen in any one place in my whole life. Is it real? And then I get to talk to them about savings and how important that is, and how it can make you feel a lot different.
So this concept that you just talked about, that is automatic enrollment, is that actually in place?
Well, it is for 401k plans and all these 403B plans and other similar at-work retirement programs where you can save, because of the ERISA laws, is a federal law that governs those, says is okay. And now the states are getting into the arena, trying to tell employers to offer IRAs to their employees if they're so big. And so now they're trying to preempt those laws that make it be so automatic enrollment works.
And is that I want to go back to, we have about 5 minutes left in the show. I want to go back to something you talked about earlier, of conversations that you've had in testifying before Congress, etc. Has there been really good progress in the area of getting state and federal government representatives to recognize that putting these kind of automatic enrollment or whatever type concepts in place, is that, you're getting traction on that?
There's a lot of traction in things that can make retirement be better. Congress isn't doing much in the case of lawmaking these days, so the administration's trying to do a lot. They said, okay, well, not only can we tell the Department of Labor to ease up on these automatic enrollment things that make it hard to do and make it easier, they've also come out with new rules about how much people can take, how much money financial advisors can take for their fees, and they have a whole fiduciary thing you may have heard about.
I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, where they're trying to keep this accounts. Once you accumulate it, you don't want to lose it to a lot of fees and those kind of things. So they're trying to improve in that way. They're also trying to, if Congress ever starts making laws again, you will see new pension ideas creep into those, because it is a bipartisan win-win. If people save more for their retirement, everybody wins, but they have to find the money for it within the budget, and that sometimes is a challenge.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So let's talk for just a few moments here about the large corporations and the things that they do. My dad worked for Boeing, so he had whatever he had. My brother-in-law retired from Boeing, and he still got whatever he's got from those kind of. Are the large companies still maintaining the kinds of structures that they had 10, 15, 20 years ago?
No, they've bifurcated them so new employees don't get the same kind of benefits that the other retirees may have gotten. Also, it's becoming more and more difficult with the corporate balance sheets being the way they are to actually take forward a pension system that is solvent and totally funded. And so they play this game in general about, I want to put in enough so the plan appears to be funded, but I don't want to fund it to the penny. So in other words, you can figure out exactly how much money needs to be in the plan today so that everybody has a retirement benefit. And all they have to do is ask their actuary.
You mean everybody that's currently owed a retirement benefit?
Even who's coming, who's going to be employed next year and that kind of thing. It's all very forecastable. And then there's an insurance program at the government to make sure that those people all get covered. And what happens is that because it's an expense to the employer, it reduces their profit, and therefore can reduce their stock value. They don't really want to fund these plans. But the real secret here is, for if you are an employee in one of these companies or a company that doesn't have a pension plan, be vocal. Tell them that's what you want. Tell them you want to have a secure retirement. And the real reason it went away was Americans stopped demanding it. And they stopped telling their employers, it's not acceptable to me that you told me I'm going to have this great retirement, but if you only funded 30 or 40% of it. And then I have to take the chance the government's going to take over the plan and give me some partial retirement benefit because you failed to do what it is you said to do.
Right. Huh. So but that's a good point. So, and we should be able to tell the people that, especially virtually any corporation. I mean, if you're working for somebody, there's opportunities to be able to put something in place. And you would, I guess it isn't an automatic that you would hope that the company executives would do it because it's the right thing to do. But then when you look at what's the impact on the balance sheet or the P&L, and then if you're a public corporation, what are the stockholders going to tell you that to do so that you can optimize the performance of the stock and blah, blah, blah. It gets to be a much more divisive and complicated issue than you think it otherwise might be.
Well, again, we're back to the complication of economics and actuarial assumptions and interest rates of financial advisors and all those wonderful things that are hard to get your arms around.
Right. Stephen, we're at the point where we need to wrap up, so I just want to ask you, if you were to say something to our viewers about this topic, 2 key points, what would those key points be?
You have to save for your retirement, because if you don't, no one else is going to do it for you. And also, if you have any kids or younger relatives or everything, talk to them about the value of saving when they're young so they can start early, and that will really make a big difference.
Fantastic. I like that last one too. That was really good. We hadn't talked about that, but that's a good one. Well, folks, you heard it. So think about this for yourself. Think about this for your family, your friends. This is a topic that needs to be discussed and not just put aside and addressed 30 years from now. Address it today, and it's going to make a big difference in your future 30 years from now. So, Stephen, thank you so much for being here on Reference Point. Greatly appreciate this. This is an important topic, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it. And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to send in those queries to info@referencepointtv.com if you have anything you want to know more about this. And then we'll see you next time on Reference Point.